Be'ezrat Hashem, Naaseh v'Natzliach. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Lighthouse project as we continue our lesson of basics in Judaism. Tonight's lesson is physical and spiritual sustenance. You're going to love this one. Very, very interesting. Before we get started, I'd like to give an honorable mention to our nightly sponsors. We have Shimon Zachary Ben Ilana Leah, who's doing this from his loving parents, Eli and Ilana Eddy, as well as Esther Gorin, doing this in memory of her father, Shmuel Chaim Ben Avram Meir Zichrono Livracha, and for the Refuah Shlema of Menachem Mendel Ben Sabat and Devorah Figa Bat Rezel. This particular class also has its own sponsors. We have our Issachar and Zvulun sponsorship. We study and they get the credit. H&M Builders, doing this in memory of their grandfather and in honor of the Dornbush family. Great family. Joseph recently just had the simcha of getting engaged. Very, very happy for them. You can see how the merit of the learning sometimes gives a big boost to someone when it's necessary. Super proud of that boy. And for Esther Bouton, Esther, who is Stacy Esther Bouton, who's doing this in honor of her sons, Yonatan, Michael, Eliyahu, and Shalom ben Esther. And we have an additional sponsor today, a very, very good friend of my family and the best friend of my wife, Florine Ritzer, doing this in memory of her father, Yosef ben Shlomo Zichrono Livracha, a big tzaddik. He was a rabbi who passed away several years ago. May his neshama should have a big aliyah from these Divrei Torah. And you should know that some of the learning that I did this week was from Rabbi Yosef ben Shlomo's books. I had the honor to take over some of his books, and some of the learning that we did is in his honor as well. Hazaku Baruch. Let's get started. But before we do, please guys, promote Hashem, promote Divrei Torah, like and share this class so more people can get turned on to having a kiruv and having a tzlacha and their chazara b'tshuva. Let's get started. Physical and spiritual sustenance sounds fancy, but I'm going to break it down real simply. A Jew in particular, but a human being in general, is made up of two parts. It's a neshama behemit and neshama sichlit. Neshama behemit is the animalistic side of the human being. That's the one that is in charge of the desires, the body, the wants, and by the way, it's temporary. And the neshama sichlit, it's the spiritual side of the human being, the soul, the real you, and that lives forever. And each part needs its sustenance. Each part of you, the animalistic side and the spiritual side, needs its nutrition to survive. The body needs sleep, food, health, basics that a human body needs to survive. And the neshama, the soul, needs something else. It needs Torah, mitzvot, ma'asim tovim, good deeds in order to survive in this world and the next world, Olam Haba. There's a pasuk in Devarim in chapter 4, pasuk Tedvav. It says, "V'nishmartem me'od lenafshotechem, ki lo reitem kol temuna biyom diber Adonai lechem bechorov mitoch ha'esh." Out of this entire pasuk, let's just concentrate on the first three words, because from these three words we learn a lot. It says, "V'nishmartem me'od lenafshotechem," and you shall watch yourselves very well. The pasuk says. This three-word combination, "Ushmartem et nafshotechem," means guarding your health and well-being, and this includes your emotional health and mental health and spiritual health. You have to protect the machine. You have to protect the body that you're in. And you have to protect the neshama that's inside of it. It's a positive commandment from the Torah. And a big part of the Jew's duality in his life and the duality of the neshama versus the body, you need to have a balanced diet. Both parts getting their proper nutrition. And that is necessary in order for a Jew to feel fulfilled and be living a purposeful and a meaningful life. Both parts got to get what they need. Now, a lack of balance throws the entire machine off tilt. And a lack of balance can lead to a failure of the body, or even more so, a failure of the neshama, and it fails in its true purpose in this world. You have to understand that we are here to fill a tikkun. That's our job. The tikkun is basically the neshama's tikkun.
What's the definition of tikkun?
Tikkun, fixing your purpose, your everything that you've been brought into this world to fix. What do you have to fix? What did you break? Well, let's just say what you did in this life, but you better believe it that you've been here many times before. So you're repairing what your previous lives need you to repair, as well as the Jew, his job is to fix. God created this world that needs fixing, and the handyman is the Jew. He sends him down to do all the fixing. We fix the world. So, in order for us to fulfill that purpose, we have to make sure that we understand that we are the neshama. The body is just the vessel that the neshama is riding for 120 years, Bezat Hashem. And later on, the neshama continues. So not to lose that understanding. And at 5,778, welcome.
Hello.
At 5,778, at 2018, there is no question that we are recycled souls. There's no question about it. We're in Ikveta de Mashiach. These are the last few years before Mashiach is coming. So in other words, anyone that's still here didn't get the job done and is here to fix. But in the process, we want to be successful with our body and our soul. And you need to know the specific recipe that works for you. What is the right way to take care of your own body, and what's the right way to elevate your soul? The neshama that's been given to you. The body stays here. The neshama continues.
Someone said
You? But before we can get spiritual, we need to get physical. Without the body being in a right state, it's going to be very hard for the mind to get into a spiritual state. Before you take care of the neshama, you have to take care of the body. As a matter of fact, if you go just to the next room to Gedalia Fenster's classes, he's a big proponent of that. Rabbi Nachman from Breslev, it's one of the biggest things. Before you do teshuvah on the neshama, do teshuvah on the body. And the reason we are learning this lesson, by the way, because I know some of you know this, and this might be new to some, because the course is basics in Judaism. And in order not to skip steps, in other words, in order for us not to say, oh, you know what, I want to become super religious, I want to be super connected to God, right? Before you can do that, you have to go through the basics first. The basics will get you there. So we don't want to skip any steps. And that's why we're starting from the bottom. Or from the beginning, let's say. Before you can take care of the neshama, you have to take care of the body. What does that mean? Remember just a few minutes ago we said, Ushmartem et nafshotechem. You have to take care very well. You have to take very well care of your body, of your mind, and of your soul. So let's start with the body. Staying healthy requires you to have proper sleep, exercise, and proper nutrition. That's basics, right? We all know that. However, the Rambam says that one should have 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, and 8 hours of studying. Be'ezat Hashem, may this class also be to the Refuah Shelema of Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh HaKohen Ben Chana. That's Rabbi, the rabbi's father, I forgot his name, it escaped me, didn't want to forget that. So, the Rambam said, 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, 8 hours of study. That's the perfect recipe for a Jew. But the most important when it comes to physical and spiritual success is the first step: food. Kosher food. You want to go to a super high spiritual level as a Jew? It starts with food. Ironically. See, eating non-kosher food creates around you walls. The Hebrew word for it is klipot. Every time there's a cheeseburger, every time there's a non-kosher candy, every time it's non-kosher wine, another wall comes up, and another wall comes up, and another wall comes up, and another wall comes up. All these walls come up. And these klipot don't allow any sort of spirituality to enter. That's how it is. And these klipot make it very difficult for you to internalize any Torah or to get elevated in any spiritual way. So a person can go to a lecture, can listen to a shiur, can feel very motivated, just like right now. We can come out of this class in an hour flying. Wow, I'm super connected to everything that you just said. But then it doesn't get applied. Why? Because the non-kosher food has put up so many walls that you can hear it, but it's not going to let you internalize it. If you want to succeed in your ruchaniyut, in your spirituality, the rabbis tell us you must eat kosher food for 30 days straight. Once your body eats kosher food for 30 days straight, then it can start to absorb Torah. It can start to accept chidushim. It could start to accept Torah concepts. You can internalize it. As long as you're not eating kosher, walls. That's what you see when I'm saying you can't skip steps. This is what I'm talking about. You can't come to a Torah class and say, hey, I really want to learn how to become super spiritual and get connected to God. And then on Sunday at 8 o'clock after the game, you're eating non-kosher pizza. It's just not going to work. You got to make that commitment of kosher food if you want to get spiritual. It's the first step to spirituality.
Can I just add one thing?
Of course.
Because I think it's so important.
Please.
When you digest your food, it goes into your blood system. And in the blood is the soul of the person also. So remember that.
Beautiful. I'm going to footnote that one into mine. I did not add that, and it's absolutely true. So now that a person has eaten kosher for 30 days, what happens is they get a spiritual boost. They begin to internalize the Torah, and they begin to practice and feel real spiritual elevations. The kosher food basically breaks down the barriers that's between you and Yetzer Hara. The Pele Yoetz said something unbelievable. He has a book. Every day you can read one section, or there's some groups that you can join in that. I'm on the one that Rabbi Mansour gives every single day, a different part, a different section. And on the part of Ta'anit, when a person fasts, he said something very, very interesting. The Pele Yoetz says that during Ta'anit, when a person is fasting, the Yetzer Hara has no control over him. Why? Because he has no food in the system. So he has nothing to hold on to. When a person has food in his system, the Yetzer Hara can control him. I thought that was super interesting. He says that's why, on fast days, on Yom Kippur, you can understand the Yetzer Hara. They say on Yom Kippur, the Yetzer Hara has that's the one day he's off. Now, we'd imagine so, because he's got no customers. Everybody is fasting. However, imagine that when fasting, the Yetzer Hara has no control of you. And that's with kosher food. Imagine what power he has on you when you have non-kosher food in your system. He's got a lot to hold on to. He's got power. Let's talk a little bit about kosher food. This is also going to be very interesting. Kosher food, we have as Jews the restriction of not eating meat with milk. The pasuk says, "Lo tevashel gdi bechalev imo." Do not cook a kid in its mother's milk. In other words, a goat that's under 1 year old, under a year old. And the main reason for this mitzvah is beyond our comprehension. We don't understand. It's referred to as a chok. What's a chok? It's a statute that we fulfill because it's the will of God. Even though we don't understand it, we do it. There's many things in the Torah. One of them is this: why we don't eat meat and cheese together. But one can imagine. Let's just say, give me a reason. I want to know. Give me something that I can hold on to. So you could say, you can imagine how cruel it would be to take a baby goat and cook it in its mother's milk. You milk the mom to get the milk, and then you take the baby goat and you cook it together. It's cruel. This doesn't seem right. The Rambam cites that it was known as a pagan ritual during those times. It was a ritual that they would do. They would take a kid and cook it in its mother's milk. Sforno says it was used to bring good luck for a successful crop or a successful flock, which is another reason that they gave. However, we accept it as a chok, without reasoning. By the way, there's many, many more. Many, many more. Just brought you a couple just to get a sense for it. So, this chok of not eating milk and meat together is something that's very interesting. Because typically for dairy, one must wait between 15 minutes to an hour before they have a meat meal, or if they eat meat right after. And some even say right after. Like, for example, Rav Ovadia Yosef says if you had something that was dairy, you can clean your mouth properly, rinse your mouth, eat a piece of bread, and drink something, and just a few minutes later, or even right after, you can have it. But typically, it's between 15 minutes to an hour that you can wait. However, meat, we wait 6 hours before eating milk. So what's this thing about meat? Well, we know that it takes a little bit longer for it to digest. So in order for the cheese not to go on top of the meat, I guess, in our bellies, but then I would say in reverse, what is it? It would be the same. There would still meat in our belly. Why is this 15 minutes and then that one's 6 hours? I don't know. I didn't find the answer to that one. But I found something very, very interesting about meat. The rules are that it needs to have a split hooves and it needs to chew its cud. In Hebrew it's called mafris parsa v'ma'ale gera. And if you notice, all the kosher animals are docile animals. They're not predators. They're not vicious. They're vegetarians. We're allowed to eat cows, deers, lamb, goat, ox, a gazelle, an antelope. We can even eat chicken, duck, pigeons, and even a giraffe. The reason why you don't find giraffe at Kosher Central or at Sarah's tent is because we don't have the masoret, we don't have the tradition on where to shecht it, where to do the the shchita. However, when it comes to shechting an animal, slaughtering an animal, the Jewish method is the most humane. It's very interesting. This is something I just found out about a few months ago, and I was very impressed by it. Kosher animals, the ones that are permitted by the Torah for consumption by Jews, have the blood is flowing in the vertebral artery, which joins with blood flowing from the front carotid artery, and this results in absolutely no pain during the Jewish ritual slaughter. So if you could see a picture, you have these two veins that come very close together. They're still separated, but they're very close together at the part of the neck, which means that when the shochet shechts the animal, one shot cuts out both veins and nothing is felt. The animal doesn't feel anything, not in the brain and not in the body. And these kosher animals, the ones that I mentioned, are the only ones that have this type of system of veins. Non-kosher animals, ones that the Torah forbids, the blood flows from the vertebral artery directly to the brain. So these two veins right now are very far apart. So when you're slaughtering the horse from under its chin, his head still feels everything. And that goes for every other animal except for the kosher animals. Could you imagine? In the entire kingdom of animals, the kosher animals, the veins are very close together, and every other animal is very far apart. The wonders of God. Did you ever hear of the term, you are what you eat? So there's many customs around the world with many different cultures where people eat certain animals in order to absorb the animal's character or add a missing piece to their persona. For example, you have people that will search out lion meat in order to acquire fearlessness. You'll have people that'll go for bear meat, which is, by the way, very, very popular in Russia. Bear claws, in order to gain strength. There's some people that look for dolphin meat, searching for harmony in their life. Horse meat for inner power. Fox meat for cleverness. Frog for emotional healing. France needs that, right? What's going on over there?
Eating a frog gives you emotional healing?
Yes, sir.
Well, not the frog itself. I think it's just the legs.
Is that what it is?
It's just the legs, and it's supposed to taste like chicken.
Really?
Yeah.
So
I've never had that, though.
So I want to tell you something. This is way back from my past. Back in the days, it used to be a very scary video that you can't get anywhere. You'd have to go to certain places where they sell it. It was called Faces of Death. And they show you these weird things that are happening around the world. Nothing that I recommend. Do not rent it. Do not see it. Do not search it out. But I can tell you what I saw there. A special meal that happened on New Year's Eve to a very select, upscale crowd. It was a round table. And you can see the fanciest silverware, the fanciest dishes. And the menu was a 7-course meal. And each dish had one of these animals. There was bear claw soup. And there was a lion, whatever the dishes were. But the most grotesque thing was that they actually had a hole in the middle of the table with a monkey tied up in the middle. And these sick people would hammer the brains out of the monkey and eat it. And this was a party in order to gain the strength of the animal, so the new year would be a healthy and a good one. So it's very common that people eat animals to absorb their character. The Torah instructs us not to eat any vicious or predatory animals, nor animals with bad habits or foul and unsanitary ways of living, in order for us not to internalize those elements of the animal or its characteristics. Just wanted to give you some background on how some things can make sense. It's a hook. We don't need to. It doesn't need to make sense, but you can see that. You know what? If you look a little bit deeper into it, you can understand that Hashem has our best interest in mind all the time. But there's no better way to accept that by saying, I don't need a reason. God said, I'm going to do. Chok. That's the best reward. But before we get to eating the food, there's one thing that a Jew must do. And you must bless on the food. So, what's the purpose of blessing? Well, one, you want to be polite. You want to thank Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. I have food in my hand. I appreciate it. Secondly, you don't want to be a thief. You don't want to be stealing the food. All the food of the world belongs to, who's the boss of all bosses? God. So imagine you come to God's kitchen or God's world, and all you do is you grab and you eat. You grab and you eat. It's like a house guest that's not grateful and emptying out your fridge. Just eating and eating and eating and eating. Never saying thank you one time. So you're a thief. You're stealing something that doesn't belong to you. The rabbis say, anyone who eats without blessing, he's a ganav. Thirdly, you want to free up the souls that are inside the food. The nitzotzot that are inside the food. You have to understand that, God bless, we are all sitting over here learning Torah right now. There are some Jews or some people that are not learning Torah. They're living a completely alternate lifestyle. Eventually, they're going to get a bill. And that bill means that they're going to have to come back and fix. And if they don't fix, they have to come back again and fix. And if they don't do it on the third time, you know what happens? They get downgraded to an animal. Sometimes they get downgraded to a plant. Sometimes they even get downgraded to a rock. So, for the souls that got downgraded to meat, or to vegetables, or to fruits, or to fish, every time you do a blessing, what happens is that neshama gets freed. It has its tikkun. It goes back up. So, imagine a fish. Imagine a person that got reincarnated as a fish. From a little, egg. Finally becomes a little fish, and it grows. Finally gets caught in the net. And then they put it in front of the fish store on top of ice. And comes a Jew and buys it and cooks it. And the guy is ready. He's like, oh, finally, my tikkun is here. And the Jew grabs that bite and eats it without a bracha. That fish has to go back all over again and do it. You know how excited that dead fish is when a Jew grabs him on Friday? So like that, he's going to bless on him on Friday night on the table. I'm graduating. I'm done. I get to move up. But if not, how important it is to create to bless. And not only that, we spoke about it, you create an angel by saying the bracha. And not only that, you're helping another soul fulfill its tikkun. At the end of the year, how many angels are going to be in your favor? When Yom Adin comes along and says, okay, in the case of Mr. Sharone Lankry, let me see all the good angels. And then comes all my meals. All my meals show up. He blessed on my water, he blessed on the fruit, he blessed on the fish. Easy. You can pick up 30 angels a day, easily. Secondly, you have to respect the food. We Jews respect food. We actually have a halachic way on how to respect food. The rabbis tell us how to respect it. And it's in the order or the placement of the blessings. In other words, if I'm sitting here with a full table with cookies and fruits and candies and bread and borekas and all these different things are around the table, what do? Do I just go for what I like, grab it, bless it, and eat? The rabbis tell us no. You have to look at the table and you have to give respect to the food according to the formula of Maga Esh. Maga Esh stands for Mem Gimel Ayin Aleph Shin, which stands for Mem is either mezonot or motzi lechem min haaretz. So bread is the most important thing. The king of all foods is bread. Gimel is gefen. That's wine. That's secondary. Ayin is etz. Anything that grows from a tree is third on the list. Aleph is adama. Anything that grows in the ground. And lastly is shakol. So if I'm sitting here and I have a table filled with food, the first thing that I think about is there bread? I don't know. I don't want to eat bread right now. Is there mezonot? Is there a cookie I want to have? A cake I want to have? A borekas I want to have? Okay, that goes first. I have to respect it. There's an order. No? Okay. How about right now, the next in line? Well, I see if there's an apple. And you should not even miss out. If you see that the table is filled with all these delicacies, go for it, one after the other. 5 angels in a row, just for eating what's on the table, just tasting it. So there's an order. Follow that order. And should you go for that piece of candy before that borekas, you insulted that borekas. It's on a higher it's on a higher level. This is blessing on food. I want to tell you something very interesting. There's been a study by a Japanese man. His name is Dr. Masaru Emoto. He did a study about water, consciousness, and intent. His study is very interesting. You can see it online. He exposed water to positive sayings. I love you. Beautiful. Angel. Gratitude. Like all these really positive ideas, concepts, words. And then he took the water and put it under a microscope, and he would see that it had perfectly formed crystals. Beautiful. Imagine like a snowflake. Then he would do the exact same thing with a different cup of water, and he would say, I hate you, Adolf Hitler, anger. He would say like all these negative terms. Then he would take the exact same water and put it under the microscope, and he would look at the water crystals, and they'd have weird, distorted shapes, scary shapes, not even clear color under the microscope. So he realized that we have an effect on water, on food, on things that we speak with. We have an effect on it. As a matter of fact, we have an effect on people. Imagine, we're 60%, over 60% made of water. So imagine when you talk to another person, what happens to you? 60% of your body is made out of water. So when you're speaking pleasantly, you're forming all these beautiful molecules inside, these little shapes of inside of you. And if not, what does it do to a person? So imagine how words can affect us both positive and negative. Now, this study came out several years ago, but we've been blessing on food for thousands of years. I love it when technology catches up to us. I love it that finally there's a study from some Japanese doctor that tells us when you talk to the food, so
also when you talk to the plants and you water them.
That's right. If you remember in previous classes I mentioned it. I'll mention it briefly. It's one of my favorite things to mention. The whole study. They say, talk to your plants. It'll make them grow. It'll make them feel better. What do we say in the Ketoret? The Kohen Gadol used to do what? He used to talk to the spices. He used to crush the spices and say, Hadek hetev, hetev hadek, hadek hetev, hadek hetev hadek. Why is he talking to the spices? Ki hakol yafela besamim. The voice is good to the plants. So there's a Harvard study 50 years ago, 40 years ago, I don't know what it is. We've already had it. Like I said, I love it when technology catches up to Judaism. So you can see that we're setting in that positive energy in our food before it enters our system. Very, very important to bless on food. In addition, we free up the neshamot that are in the food. We create an angel by saying the beracha. And throughout the day, we create so many angels. At the end, it's a win-win situation, any way you look at it. Any way you look at it, it's a win-win situation for everyone. Let's start the day from the morning. You know, in the morning, we have a huge opportunity for health, wealth, and increased love to be applied for the rest of the day. How? Through our breakfast. You believe me? Health, wealth, and increased love just by eating breakfast. Okay, I guess I have to make you believe me. Look what it's.
Skeptical.
There's a big mitzvah to eat bread in the morning. It's called pat shel shachrit. Now, pat shel shachrit is not waking and baking. For any marijuana smokers in the room, pat shel shachrit is not you wake up and you smoke pot. Pat is another word for food, for bread. Pat shel shachrit, the bread of the morning. Listen to this. Pat shel shachrit, it says, I brought this from Masechet Brachot. דבר אחר, מחלה ש83 חולאים תלויים במראה וכולן פת שחרית במלח וקיטון של מים מבטלן. It says there are 83 diseases that are traveling in the body every day that are connected to the black bile that the body produces. And that can be eliminated. These 83 diseases that are traveling through the body that have the ability to harm you on a regular day can be eliminated by eating bread with salt and a pitcher of water. Pat shel shachrit. Tanu Rabbanan. You're going to love this Gemara. I'm going to read it in Hebrew, then I'll read it word for word and translate it. Yud Gimel Dvarim Ne'emru Bepat Shachrit. 13 things have been said about eating bread in the morning. Again, this is a Gemara. This is what the rabbis have told us. They said this thousands of years ago. I'm letting you know it's true. We just proved it with the water crystals. We just proved it with talking about the water crystals. You should believe that eating bread does all this. Matzelet min hachama umin hatzina umin hazikin umin hamazikin umachkimat peti. Eating bread in the morning will save you from fever, from catching a cold, from bad angels, and makes you smarter. Vezoche bedin lilmod Torah velamed. And he merits to learn Torah and to teach Torah. Again, eating bread in the morning. Vedvarav nishma'im v'talmudo mitkayem be'ado. When he speaks, people listen. And whatever he studies and learns, he's able to perform. Ve'en basaro ma'aleh hevel. His body does not go ill. Ve'niskak li'ishto ve'eno mitaveh isha acheret. And it makes him want his wife. And he doesn't look at other women. Ve'horeget kina shebivnei me'ayim. And it kills a certain type of disease that's inside the intestines. And it even says it eliminates jealousy and promotes love. Who's having breakfast tomorrow with bread?
Forget the diet.
Wow. Go ahead.
Eliminates jealousy and
Promotes love.
And promotes love.
Like I said, you want wealth, health, and increased love in the day? It starts with your breakfast. As a matter of fact,
Does it matter? Sorry. Does it matter if you start with the water first or the blood?
No, as long as it's part of it.
What about the amount?
Amount enough that you can say Birkat Hamazon. The other side of it is the value, the importance of Birkat Hamazon. It's a gateway to brachot. Birkat Hamazon is one of those blessings that is a Torah obligation. So imagine as soon as you wake up, or right after, as soon as you're having breakfast, not only you're putting the proper nutrition into your body, but you're also saying a Torah obligation, Birkat Hamazon. And Birkat Hamazon is like this pipe. You're just like opening up a pipe of success, bracha, tzlacha. Just the words that come out of your mouth. You don't know the power of Birkat Hamazon. As a matter of fact, you might not even know the importance of bread. You might not know its powers. You might not know its powers to the body, to the Jew, and to his neshama.
Bread is parnasa.
That's right. That's what they got. You got the bread. One thing that you should know is that bread is the king of all foods. Remember we said in Maga'esh, what's mem? Motzi. That's the first. Once you eat bread, you don't have to bless on anything else. Bread is the king of all foods. Gefen, wine, is the king of all drinks. Once you do Borei Priya Gefen, you don't have to bless on any other drinks. Keep that in mind. We give it tantamount importance in our daily lives. In the mornings, in Shabbat, when we celebrate, when the rabbis tell us, it's time for Seudah. You know what halachically equals Seudah? Bread and meat. And if you add wine, even better. But whenever you're supposed to have a Seudah, like right now, today is Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh, there's a custom to have a Seudah. What's a Seudah? Bread and wine. Rosh Chodesh, get accustomed to having a meal with bread and wine. If you're working, take with you a small little, what do you call those Geffen bottles? Those little...
Those 99-cent ones.
Yeah, take it with you to work. It's like that when you're eating, you get yourself a sandwich, drink that grape juice. Seudah, Rosh Chodesh. Anytime you say Seudah, it's bread and meat.
Do you know the gematria of Seudah?
Is?
I don't know.
Seudah, Samech Ayin, Vav, Dalet, Hey. I'm going to need to give it to you later.
Okay.
I'm going to go a little...
I love those things.
Oh, me too. I'm going to give you some over here. There's some gematriot. You have to know that there's... I'm going to go a little deep right now, but not too deep. There are 7 worlds. World within a world, within a world, within a world, within a world, within a world. Don't ask me to explain. That's all I know. But what I do know, that in all these worlds, and by the way, we're coexisting right now with all these worlds. There's 7 worlds and 7 heavens. If you ever want to look into it, super interesting topic. Maybe one day we'll give a class on it. In all the worlds, only in this one is there bread. All the other worlds don't have this concept of bread. Only this world. Again, I'm trying to show you the importance of bread. You know, even the process of making bread, if we didn't know it already, and somebody showed it to you for the first time, you'd be shocked. You'd be shocked. Imagine you've never seen bread before, and I tell you, look at this. Look at all these processes. I'm going to take a little seed and I'll put it in the ground. And then I'm going to plow it. Then I'm going to sow it. Then I'm going to reap it. Then I'm going to gather it. Then I'm going to thresh it. Then I'm going to winnow it. Then I'm going to sort it. Then I'm going to grind it. Then I'm going to sift it. Then I'm going to knead it. Then I'm going to bake it. And this thing comes out.
And make sure it's yashin.
Yes. You'd be like, what? We take it for granted that we can go to the store and get a loaf of bread. But look at these 11 processes that you have to go through in order to produce bread. It's absolutely magic. There's a pasuk in Bamidbar. It's actually part of the Ketorah that we say every day. It says, Korbani lachmi leisha reach nichor shel Hashem. So they say the words Korbani lachmi. My sacrifice is my bread. Right? So they explain over there, the rabbis bring, Lechem hu chibur chazak shel shnayim. They say the bread is a very strong connection of two. What are those two? Va'alechem mechaber haguf im hanefesh. There's one food that connects the body and the soul. Remember we were talking about the two parts? The behemit and sichlit? What connects the animalistic side and the spiritual side of a human being and makes them work together? What connects them, since they're completely two polar opposites? Bread. Halechem mechaber haguf im hanefesh. Haguf im hanefesh. Continues to say, a korbanot, Knesset Israel, and the sacrifices connect the nation of Israel with God, and so on and so on. But the most important part of that learning is that there's a food that connects the animalistic side to the spiritual side, and it's bread. The bread infuses the body and the soul, and it creates a positive spiritual connection, and has physical and spiritual powers. And that's why the bread demands so much respect. But furthermore, this is also Masechet Brachot. It says over there, Tanu Rabbanan, our rabbis taught, Dvarim ne'emru b'pat, arba'a devarim ne'emru b'pat. 4 things were said about bread. This is a Gemara in Masechet Brachot. En menichin basar chai al apat. You don't put raw meat on bread. Ve'en ma'avirin kos maleh al apat. You don't take a glass of water and pass it over bread. Ve'en somchim ve'en zorkin et apat. And we don't throw out bread. Do you ever see Jews? What do we do with bread? We put it in a bag, we save it, we hold it. We don't know what to do with it. At the end, we give it to the birds until it rots, and then we put it in the garbage. Why? Why do we have this relationship with bread?
You don't just throw it in the garbage.
You have to tie it. Yeah, I was just going to say. You have to tie it up in a bag, kiss it. We kiss our bread. You see any of the goyim in the mall kissing bread before they eat it, before they put it away? Ve'en zorkin et tapat. Ve'en somchim et hakara bapat. And we don't lean anything on bread. Look at the respect. They even say whoever cleans the table, you know when there's crumbs on the table and you go like this to your hand, it's a segula le'aniyut. It's a virtue to become poor. It's a segula to be poor. You're supposed to actually take it in a plate or into a napkin, never into your hand. You do that, it's a segula. They say an angel comes and follows you until you become poor. Imagine. Or let's just say there's crumbs on the table. You throw it on the floor, we'll sweep it later. No. Special treatment. VIP. There's rabbis in Israel that have a silver spoon on Friday nights when they cut the challah and they pass it around. There's crumbs all over the table. You know what they do? They pick up the crumbs and they eat it. Not because there's no food, there's a feast in front of them. They know the greatness of bread. They know the greatness of every crumb. They know that's their parnasah. There's people that give. There was a guy, I heard this story not too long ago. Super filthy rich. The guy owns half of the planet. He had some handyman come to him and do some work at home. And he saw the rich man having lunch. And he's eating like bread with sesame. And when he was done, he sees this rich man. He's picking up every little crumb like this. He's picking up, he's like sticking it, and he's going like this, and he's eating it. And he's, the handyman's like, look at these rich people. That's how you got rich, for being so cheap. He says, why are you eating the crumbs? Why are you doing that? He goes, that's my parnasah. That's my livelihood. Every crumb over there, that's a sale. That's my success. Look how they respect bread. Where everything that I just mentioned now, not putting raw meat on the bread, not passing water over it, not leaning anything over it, cleaning it properly, not throwing it on the floor. You know when we're the most prone to that? Shabbat dinner. Shabbat dinner, where is it? The bread is everywhere. How do you, oh, pass me the bottle. Oh, give me the water. Oh, pass me. You have to see, you know, when I learned this a couple of years ago, and I tried to implement this in my house, and I'm like, you can't pass anything over the bread. Oh, here we go. So I try to teach him. You can't put it over the bread. You have to respect the bread. And then you say, all of a sudden, they put the siddur on the bread. You can't lean anything on the bread. You have to respect the bread. And and here's that guy again. Here's Moshe Rabbeinu on the table. But you tell him, listen, I learned it. I have to explain to you. We have to live it. We have to respect the bread. For the adults, I gave them a little bit more of an insight of what it's about. For the kids, I just taught them that's the right way. You have to respect the bread, respect the food. You have to see, Baruch Hashem nowadays, it's like a no-fly zone over the bread. Everything goes sideways, passing. I'll meet you over there. There's no passing over the bread. They respect the bread. Why? The Gemara said so. So what do? We do. Why? The rabbis knew better. Just follow. Now, it's very important to keep in mind the power of bread. Even though that nowadays bread is the enemy. For diets, for gluten, for preservatives, for sugars, I get it. Get the most healthiest bread that you can deal with, and don't miss out on Pachot Shachrit. Don't miss out on a Seudah with bread. Don't miss out on the mitzvah, and the health, and the love, and the success that comes along with it. You know, we mentioned earlier that the Jew's spiritual sustenance is made up of two parts, the body and the soul. The soul, the neshama, also needs to get its sustenance. It also needs to get its food. And the way that it gets its food is very simple. Torah, mitzvot, ma'asim tovim. The way that the Jewish soul is wired is that its true fulfillment, its true satisfaction comes through the performance of the mitzvot, acts of loving kindness, and being in sync with the world and its inhabitants, and especially between Am Yisrael. That's our purpose. However, anyone who is not giving the neshama its spiritual sustenance feels a void, feels emptiness. It's coming. You might not feel it in your 20s. You might not feel it in your 30s. You might not feel it in your 50s. You might not even feel it in your 70s. But when it comes, you're going to feel a huge hole in your chest. An emptiness that nothing satisfies you. No matter how long you've been on that journey. If you were able to get enlightened in your 20s, God bless you. In your 30s, good for you. 40s, better hurry up. 50s, 60s, you know what's the worst thing that old people tell me? Is being 70 and having regret. Not having fulfilled life's purpose. Because why? All the time, all the things that they could have done when they were younger, now are not an option. And they're bitter about it. And you know what happens? They become angry. They become empty. They become cynical. They become grumpy old men. Why? Because it's not a fulfilled life, especially for a Jew. And at some points, there's an emptiness that cannot be fixed by anything. There's no quick fix for, by food. You can't fix it with food, with shopping, with jewelry, with cars, with vacations. Nothing can help. The void returns. It comes back.
Is that why they invented the second bar mitzvah?
Is it?
What's that? I'm asking you.
What's that?
When a man gets to be 83,
really?
he has the second bar mitzvah.
Wow, may we all merit.
I'm
looking forward to my second bar mitzvah. That's unbelievable. I didn't know that.
Why 83?
Because 70 years is a full life plus 13?
Correct.
Wow, I can't wait to be in my father's bar mitzvah. Now, once
That's
the void
cool, isn't it?
returns, it is. Once the void returns, the people chase other means. In other words, they say, "Oh, it's not in materialism. It's not in consumerism. It's not there. I can get my spirituality in a different way. Drugs, alternate spiritual outlets. Let me go to the Far East. Buddhism, Confucianism, yoga becomes a religion instead of an exercise. But none will fulfill the void of a Jewish neshama except for Torah, mitzvot, and maasim tovim. Know that. That's our recipe. The neshama is wired to be fulfilled when you're feeding it that. But the key to true success is the combo. It's the combination of kosher food in a healthy body with a soul that's fulfilled with doing God's will. And when a soul is getting its spiritual nutrition of mitzvot, chesed, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, maasim tovim, you become in sync. It's a very special feeling when your mind, body, and soul are in sync, which is the balance that we all seek. And when the balance is not there, you can look and see which part of you is being neglected, and you can bring back your harmony. In other words, is it the food that's not right? Is it the exercise that's not right? Is it my ruchaniyut that's not right? What's off? Because if one thing is off, everything is off. But when you're well balanced, you start to have a flow. You start to have a simcha, a happiness about you, a joy. You start to have hatzlacha. You're successful with people. You're successful with yourself. You're successful with God because you're in sync. You are able to marry your body and your soul. And we should all strive for that. And I'd like to conclude with this. Keeping kosher is not hard. It's just in your head. Nothing is worth your neshama or your spiritual success or your eternal life past this world. Nothing. Not that pizza. Not that fish dish or pasta dish in a non-kosher restaurant. Not that candy without a hechsher, and not that glass of non-kosher wine. Nothing is worth your eternal afterlife. Why give it up? If you want to fulfill your true purpose, you have to conquer your te'ava for food, your desire for food. And you'll get spiritually enlightened. Like we said, eat kosher, first take care of the body, then take care of the neshama. Now, I'm not saying that non-kosher food is not delicious. It is. It is. I would love to have a Big Mac. I would love to have a filet mignon encrusted with bacon. I would love to have ice cream after a steak. I would love to have pepperoni pizza with extra cheese and extra pepperoni. I would love to have a seafood paella with crab and shrimp and lobster. I would love. But I won't. Why? Because Hashem said I can't. See, the food is not disgusting. It's great food. It's just not for me. See, each time I say that, each time I see a beautiful dish, I'm like, oh, man, that looks delicious. I would love to have that. But I won't. Why? Because I want to fulfill God's will. So I get a mitzvah for wanting and not doing it, and I get another mitzvah for listening to Hashem.
No angel?
There has to be some sort of angel there. Has to be some sort of angel conquering that. So imagine, I heard something super interesting. We're not allowed to eat insects.
Right.
We're allowed to eat grasshoppers, but we don't have the tradition to know which one is kosher, which one is not. So there's certain insects that are allowed, or critters. But in general, we're not allowed to eat insects. So I heard something very interesting last week. I heard it from Rabbi Loretto. I forgot which rabbi he said it in the name of. It was a big rabbi, Gdol Adov, from like 200 years ago, that said he would sit down and he would look at the cockroach walk by. And he would say, he looks delicious. I would love to eat you, but I can't. But I can't. I mean, that's a different
That's
level.
not being realistic.
No.
Wanting to eat a cockroach.
He
Listen,
just wanted-
it's very found nowadays. You salt and pepper anything and deep fry it, it's delicious. But I'm not saying. Yeah, that's the cockroach of the sea.
There is a place in South America, or I don't know, maybe in Peru, where they take the ants, but just the back part of the ant, and they toast them.
Wow.
Hey, people are eating insects all
Like-
over the
like
world.
peanuts.
Yeah, you go to.
Well, I'm talking like 40 years ago.
It's happening today. It's happening today everywhere, and today they taste even better. They have all these little spices that they put on it. But again, by just doing that, but just by saying I want to, but I can't I don't want to because Hashem said so.
Very good.
Shama goes higher and higher. Your soul starts elevating itself. Imagine all these little things that you go throughout the day, and your neshama gets higher and higher and higher. And you get to understand Hashem more. Hashem starts saying, now, you're doing that? I'm going to let you understand me better. I'm going to reveal myself to you a little bit more now. Because most people are like, what's Hashem? Oh, God, it's so far from me. I can't get it. Do those things. Show Hashem that you're doing only because He said not to do. And He's going to reveal Himself in your life. See what works for someone else. I'm not, everyone has what works for them, but I'm not trying to connect with what works for a goy. The whole world is set up in a certain way where we act a certain way, live a certain way, and goyim, they're not doing anything wrong by being goyim, they're just being goyim. But we don't have to be like them. We don't have to copy them. We don't have to want the food that they eat and everything. That's for them. Let them enjoy it. It's like there's a rabbi in Israel that was talking. This was Rabbi Amnon Yitzchak said one time. He says one guy told him, I don't want to stop going to the clubs on Friday. I love going to the clubs on Friday. I love to go dancing. I like to go dancing on Friday nights. He says, but God already has people dancing for Him on Friday night. He doesn't need you for that. He already has millions of people that go to a nightclub and dance. He doesn't need you for that. He has a different thing for you. It's the same thing. Hashem has different things set up for us. Tune into that. If you're a Jew, tune into what Jews are supposed to do. You'll really discover yourself if you give it more attention. And this is the way you get closer to Hashem, closer to your religion, closer to your true self, and you double up with mitzvot, and you get plugged in, and you start living a fulfilled life. I like to conclude with something that's on the subject, but completely off the subject. These lessons keep taking me in that direction. This is something I'm going to repeat in the name of Rabbi Mansour. He said something very interesting regarding kosher food. He gave an example about kosher food with Jews, Arabs, and Christians. Says Arabs are the camel. What's the camel? The camel chews its cud. It regurgitates its food, chews on it, and goes back. Always going over and over, back and over. Doesn't have a split hoof. Christians are known to be the pigs. What's a pig? It has a split hoof, but doesn't chew its cud. How does a pig sit? Sits with its feet up front like this. To show what? Look at me, I'm kosher. To show that I have a split hoof. And he hides the fact that he doesn't chew his cud. So the rabbis, and of course we, are the ones that eat the animal that has a split hoof and chews its cud. So he says we can learn something very interesting about Christians, Arabs, and Jews. He says the Christian, the pig, the one that shows his feet, says, looking, I'm kosher, I'm always good, I'm always perfect. Always having his feet forward. Is showing, I always have my feet forward because I'm always moving forward. I'm always changing, I'm constantly changing. And if you notice, Christianity is one of those religions that is constantly evolving within itself. Protestant, Anglican, Baptist, Jehovah's Witness, what happens? Every time a group of people doesn't agree with a certain type of ideology, they drop what they don't like, and they start another group with the things that they just like. And they keep moving forward. They keep moving forward. They drop what they like, what they're okay with, and they start another sect of Christianity. And they're constantly pushing forward, pushing for change, and discarding parts of the past. In order to what? To fit today. That's Christianity. The Arab, it's that camel that chews its cud. It's constantly bringing back older food. It's stuck in the past, constantly bringing over and over, over and over. The Arabs nowadays, you can see, they don't want to move forward. They want to go back in time. They want to see today like it was yesterday. See, Islam, on a majority, is pushing to go to Sharia law. They're pushing for old standards in a modern world. They don't want to change. They're constantly stuck in the past. So we have the Christians that want to move forward, and we have the Arabs that want to stay in the past. Then comes the Jew, with the animal that chews its cud and splits its hooves, and has split hooves, and we're constantly connected to our past. But we're always forging forward. We always have Gdol Hador that knows how to interpret the Torah and make it relevant for this day and age. We never outgrow any ideas or any halachic traditions. They're always completely relevant to our daily lives. From the generation of the desert to the generation that we're in, the generation of technology and civilization's advancements. In other words, the way that they kept Shabbat in the desert is the way that we keep Shabbat here. You always have those people, they didn't have electricity, they didn't have fire. Okay, not a problem. We have Harav Ovadia Yosef that wrote a 25-book explanation of how we live according to today's day and age with the laws of the Torah, Yalkut Yosef, and anything that you want to know. Anything that you want to know. Open up that book, there's the halacha. We never disconnect from the past, but we know how to live with it in the future. That's the Jew. The Arabs are stuck. The Christians are moving forward. We have both worlds. So the success of every Jew has always been and will always be a synergy of mind, body, and soul. That begins with kosher food, continues with Torah learning, and gets carried out through good deeds and acts of loving kindness. And a Jew, living as a Jew, is where you get the immense reward of living a fulfilled and purposeful life. Eat kosher, do a mitzvah, and be happy. שיטו לבכם לחילה, והשיגו אמונותיו למען תספרו דרכו. השם יברך אתכם, שמח אתכם. Thank you so much.